With reporting that the state official medical examination has now been completed in the Nolan Wells case, even though the results haven't been released, I think that tells us something big. I want to get into that and the new developments that we're seeing, like arrests and a potential new video coming out.
Nolan Wells has been gone for weeks now, but this week brought something the family, the public, and honestly everyone following this case has been waiting for. Reports now indicate that the official state autopsy has been completed, not released, completed. And if you understand how these things work, that distinction matters more than it might seem. Let's back up for anyone just catching up.
Another week, and we have more updates in the Nolan Wells case. The mysterious death of that 18-year-old college football player whose body washed ashore 2 days after he went missing while out on a boating trip on Horn Island, Mississippi during the July 4th weekend. This barrier island.
Nolan Wells was 18 years old, a college football player, and he went missing during a boating trip off Horn Island, Mississippi over the July 4th weekend. His body was recovered 2 days later. Since then, this case has pulled in national attention, competing timelines, disputed audio, and now, unfortunately, threats against people connected to the investigation. We're going to walk through everything that's happened this week in order, because there's a lot to get through. First, the autopsy. According to reporting from a Mississippi news outlet, officials familiar with the investigation say the state medical examiner's report has been completed. The results have not been made public.
Barrier Island, 10 miles off the Gulf Coast. Later on, I'm going to be bringing in forensic death investigator Joseph Scott Morgan, because I think the reported announcement that the official state autopsy of Nolan has been completed, while the results are not released yet because the investigation's ongoing. The case is going to be reportedly sent to a grand jury to see if there are criminal charges, whether they should be filed. Nonetheless, I think that this announcement, this reported announcement that the report is done, the autopsy has been completed, I think that that is telling. I think that when you look at the timing of the report being completed, that by all accounts, this means the toxicology report has come in. This may say something. Do they now have a definitive cause and manner of death of Nolan Wells? And I'm going to get into that with Joseph. And by the way, this is all based on reporting from
And the reported explanation is that the case may be headed to a grand jury, which would determine whether criminal charges are warranted. So the silence isn't necessarily suspicious on its own. It may simply be procedural. But the timing is worth sitting with for a second, because a completed autopsy typically means toxicology and histology results have already come back.
What does that tell you?
Well, complete means complete. You can actually literally use that, because they're not going to say that, Jesse, unless they have the tox and they have the histo, which is the microscopic report. They have that stuff. So, if you think about an autopsy report, very broad terms here, it's got essentially 4 components. You've got the physical gross examination that we do in the autopsy lab, right? Where we're looking at everything, we're examining organs and all of that. Then you have chemical testing, which is toxicology. It's going to be a broad spectrum report. We call it a standard panel. So you name the drug within reason. Okay, I'm not talking about some kind of exotic kind of thing, but within reason, drugs of abuse, prescription drugs. I mean, we even do aspirin. You'll see salicylates on there. Of course, blood alcohol is a big key here, right? That's something we're thinking about. And in addition to that, third part is going to be the histo report, where you're actually taking the samples like the lungs, okay, the lungs and any other tissue samples that they've taken through, and they put them on microscopic slides. The doctor will issue a report relative to that. Here's the conclusion of this. You're going to have the death certificate too, and it will have, in my opinion at least, it's going to have the manner of death, one of the 5. Everybody's kind of wondering what this is going to be. And then it will have a specific cause.
And those take real time to process. If this reporting holds up, it suggests investigators may already have a working theory of cause and manner of death, even if we, the public, don't get to see it yet.
Let me ask you this. So we understand the reporting signifies that the initial physical autopsy was done on July 7th. The testing,
Yes.
like you said, takes longer.
Yeah.
And histology, which you talked about, can take several days, weeks. It's all part of this report. If it was completed in this time, my main question is, does that signify to you that they know the cause and manner of death, that it's not going to be undetermined in the same way that the independent autopsy was?
They've got all these components, I think, and they've got a wide range of things to choose from. I would be very surprised if it was left undetermined at this point, considering how much time they've had to do scientific evaluation We're into August now, right? Okay. Even if you're doing consultations, let's say you're doing uh, a neuropath consultation where you're bringing a neuropathologist to take a look at tissues of the nervous system. Even if you're doing some kind of toxicology consult, you've had more than enough time to do this at this point, and they have had enough time to run the panels as well. So, in my opinion, yes, sir, we're going to have something that, and of course, the big thing here is, why can't we
Now,
see
here's
it?
where things get messier. While all of this has been unfolding, a fake toxicology report has been circulating online, presented as if it were Nolan's real results. Mississippi's public safety commissioner has publicly stated that this circulating report is fraudulent and directly said that Nolan and his family deserve better than what's being
I
spread
hate
about
to
him.
say it, but I'm not surprised. Did you know that there is a fake toxicology report that is making its way online? Yeah, according to WAPT 16, Mississippi Public Safety Commissioner Sean Tyndall is telling the public that there is a fake toxicology report going around online. He posted this on social media. Quote, the purported toxicology report from Nolan Wells circulating through social media on various outlets is fraudulent. Nolan's family, friends, and most importantly, Nolan himself deserve better. And I'm not surprised that
This
we're
is worth
seeing
pausing on because it's a reminder of just how much misinformation has attached itself to this case. Multiple theories have been floating around for weeks, and clearly, at least one person decided to fabricate hard evidence rather than wait for the real thing. Let's talk about the timeline questions because they're central to understanding why people are so locked into this case. The working theory from investigators has been that Nolan may have stayed behind on Horn Island rather than returning with his friends, possibly to talk to someone he'd met that day.
If you've been following this case, we know that everything is about Nolan's whereabouts and timeline. Did he leave his friends and decide to stay on Horn Island to talk to a young woman and never made it back to the mainland? Now, we know that the sheriff's office has been asking the public for any unredacted photos and videos from that weekend to establish a timeline. Now, we previously discussed this distress call that the boat was taking on water, the boat that Nolan had appeared to have been on at some point. And there was a video that came out where it does not
Authorities have asked the public for any unredacted photos or video from that weekend to help nail down exactly where Nolan was and when. There was already a widely discussed distress call from the boat reporting it was taking on water, and separately, video that appeared to show the boat without Nolan aboard at a certain point, suggesting he may have already been left behind on the island. There's also been debate over background noise in that distress call audio, with some online claiming they can hear things suggesting Nolan was in trouble. An audio expert who reviewed it, however, said that after running it through transcription.
Here as well, Jesse.
So Bruce Lind originally told CNN that there were no signs of physical injury, right? Preliminarily. The independent autopsy didn't find apparently any lacerations or gestures or deep tissue incisions or anything like that, other than they've talked about this red discoloration on the head.
He did not find what people claim to hear, though he noted he'd want to hear the original unredacted version before saying anything definitively.
About the back and forth about this strange audio of the distress call where some believe you can hear people in the background suggesting that Nolan is in trouble or that he's dead. And I've spoken to an audio expert who cast doubt on that. I mean, there was one thing he said he wants to hear the original unredacted audio, but also said that when he put it through a transcript, he didn't hear anything that people claim that they hear in the background. There is also an argument that if Nolan was dead or that he was dying, why would somebody on the boat make a call to dispatch at that moment while all that is going on? Also, not to mention that, Nolan is in trouble. So if there's nothing nefarious going on and he's suffering from something, why wouldn't they have mentioned that to dispatch? I mean, again, this is what some of the things don't make entire sense. On the same token, somebody might say, it doesn't make sense that nobody, as of right now, as far as we can tell, based on the public reporting, we don't know what the investigation is, but the public reporting, nobody saw or heard.
Now add this week's new development. Another video has surfaced, this one uploaded to Instagram, appearing to show the same boat from that day. The person who posted it claims it was recorded around 11:17 in the morning, but separate reporting claims the file's metadata shows a recording time of 20:23 in the afternoon, several hours later than initially claimed, and notably still before the last confirmed sighting of Nolan around 3 p.m. The footage appears to show clearer detail than what's previously circulated, including someone in the same blue shorts believed to match what Nolan was wearing that day. If accurate, this could represent the most recent known footage of Nolan before his body was found. That's a significant if, though, because discrepancies in timestamps are exactly the kind of thing investigators will need to verify before anyone treats this as reliable.
Apparently, new video has come out. there is this footage here that was uploaded to Instagram by a user where you see the Mac Daddy boat, and that seemingly matched previously obtained and released footage. Now, notably, the person who apparently took this video says they captured this at 11:17 a.m. TMZ claims the metadata shows this was recorded at 2:23 p.m. Now, remember, the current account has been that those who were with Nolan saw him last at 3 p.m. And the footage, again, seemingly matches the older footage of a black male wearing those blue shorts that seemingly are the same ones that Nolan appears to wear in a photo that is circulated of him that day. So this new clip appears to be clear quality. TMZ claims that the adults in frame are different than the ones in that older clip. So is this currently the last known image of Nolan Wells before his body washed up on that
And then
island?
there are the threats. This is the part of the story that's honestly hardest to talk about because it moves beyond speculation into alleged criminal conduct against real people. Reporting indicates at least 2 individuals have now been arrested in connection with threats tied to this case. One woman is accused of making dozens of calls to state offices involved in the investigation, threatening explosives. Separately, a man is accused of sending threatening messages online directed at a judge whose stepson was reportedly on the boat with Nolan that day, messages that reference violence in graphic terms. He's facing at least one federal charge. Nolan's own family has said they've received harassment and threats as well. To be clear, these are allegations, and the people accused are entitled to due process. But regardless of how these specific cases resolve, they point to something bigger. The emotional intensity around this case has escalated to a genuinely dangerous level, with real people now facing real legal consequences for how they've chosen to engage with it online.
Threats, okay? So apparently, now at least 2 people have been arrested and charged with allegedly making threats connected to Nolan Wells' case. The Cincinnati Enquirer reports that Michelle Francine Edwards allegedly placed 30 calls to 2 state government offices regarding bombs. The office is investigating Nolan's death. The Sacramento Bee reports that Joseph Alfredo Vasquez Dumarque was accused of sending explosive-related threats on social media to a judge whose stepson, apparently Warren Hudson, apparently a friend of Nolan, was on the boat with Nolan that day, facing at least one federal charge right now. And these alleged messages are quite chilling. Quote, "There will be a package coming to your guy's office in the next few days. It's going to blow you away when you see it. LOL. Probably best to have the boys there to see as well. Blood, so much blood everywhere. Hard to clean, especially from a boat. But yours will be quick, I promise. I got all your info. Not even the FBI can stop this." And this comes on the heels of Nolan's family indicating that they too have been harassed, that they too have been receiving threats. And look, while these are all allegations and we don't know the motive of the circumstances, what this does highlight is not only how much attention has been brought to this case, but
So
how
where does that leave the actual investigation? We know Nolan's family previously commissioned an independent autopsy, which reportedly returned an undetermined cause and manner of death, in part because certain neck and throat tissue had already been retained by the state for further testing.
Now I want to get into something else. Okay, so now I want to talk about the state autopsy. And remember, this comes after Nolan's family had ordered an independent autopsy. We've talked about this before. Undetermined cause and manner of death. It was limited, right? It was limited in that it was reported what they had of Nolan's body, that Nolan's throat was not present. So it was believed that the state ME had kept those throat and neck components for further testing. But now you're hearing this word that the state autopsy has been completed. What does this mean? What should we take from it?
That detail matters because forensic experts who've spoken about this case note that a thorough dissection of that area, structures like the hyoid bone, the strap muscles, and surrounding tissue, can reveal signs of compression or trauma that wouldn't be visible externally.
Okay, I'll go ahead and tell you what they probably retained. I don't know this for a fact, but I will just say standardly, we're talking about from the tongue all the way down to where the trachea actually bifurcates into the lungs. So that entire structure system that's in there, that will have been retained. They still have possession. Starting with the tongue, you're going to look for any trauma on the tongue that you cannot appreciate if you just open somebody's mouth at autopsy. And you're going to look for biting of the tongue, any kind of contusions that might be there. One of the things that they would have done at autopsy, you were talking about drowning as potentially a weaponization of drowning. One of the things we look for, if everybody will take the tip of their tongue and put it between your lips and your gum, that's called the frenulum. That little piece of tissue can get torn if somebody's holding your mouth like this, like a suffocation. That will have been examined thoroughly. Um, the connective tissue within the soft palate going down into the throat, we're going to look at the hyoid, right? And he says in his report he couldn't appreciate the hyoid. The hyoid is with them as well. Okay. So they're going to look for those bony structures that are up here. Also, all of the cartilaginous bodies that are contained in here. We're talking about the pharynx and the larynx and, you know, the trachea and all of those structures that are along there. We're also going to be looking at the vessels, the carotids, jugulars. And here's an important thing right here. We've got what are called the strap muscles, kind of interlaced like this. They would have done a detailed dissection on that. That's going to tell you if there's any underlying hemorrhage right here. So they've retained all this. So it's not just like your windpipe, okay? Because I think
whether that testing changes the picture at all remains unknown until the state's findings are released. We also don't yet know whether the red discoloration noted on the back of Nolan's head during the independent exam will factor into the state's official findings, or whether it was something that developed later, potentially related to decomposition during transport.
Oh, that's so interesting. Before I let you go,
yeah.
The red discoloration on the back of the head that was referenced in the independent autopsy, is this something that's going to be referenced in the ME's report? And if it is not, what does that tell you? Does that mean that it wasn't on Nolan's body during that first exam? What was present in the second exam?
That's a fantastic question. That's why I go back to the decomposition that the doctor makes note of. And he even says that his ability to, and I'm paraphrasing here, please, don't take this out of context,
Sure.
but these focal areas that he kind of shades in like a rectangle, which I found kind of interesting from my perspective. If it was not there when the Mississippi ME saw it, then is this something that developed as a result of the travel from Mississippi to Washington, D.C.? Was this a decompositional artifact in total? Or was there something else there? Remember when the folks at the ME's office with the state of Mississippi, they will have seen this a lot sooner, right? They will have had, and the level of decomposition will not have been the same as it is as once they got his remains up to DC, and his body has not been preserved to the best of my knowledge. I did not see any indication in the report. I might be proven wrong that the second, because when you do autopsies on bodies that have been embalmed, that is a specific thing that is made note of in second autopsies, and also in disinterments as well.
That's a detail worth watching for once any results become public. At this point, everything hinges on process. If this case does move to a grand jury, that would explain why the findings are being kept sealed for now.
This come from the state medical examiner's office, but Mississippi is a coroner state, so guess who the gatekeeper is? It's that county coroner. And so they're involved in this conversation, and they'll, the coroner themselves will have to sign off on this. And they're an elected official down there in that area. I think it's, correct me if I'm wrong, I think it's Jackson County is the name of the county.
It's Jackson County Coroner Bruce Lind.
Yeah, so he's involved in this process. It's
the state medical examiner's report and the county coroner's findings will likely be presented together, and any decision about charges would follow from there.
Well, if we were to believe what we are hearing, right, and I don't want to steal your thunder, but, I think it was ABC that was reporting over the weekend that it's been released. If this thing it's been completed, is the next step to grand jury. That's why we're not seeing it.
No, it's 100% what it seems like it's going to be, that it's part of the whole investigative file. Don't really know how far along the sheriff's office is in their investigation if they're not ready to hand this over to the DA for potential presentation to a grand jury. And even if it is presented, whether or not criminal charges would be recommended, it's a component of this.
Nobody outside that room knows exactly how far along the investigation is or when the public might actually see results. What we do know is this interest in this case hasn't faded. Misinformation keeps filling the gaps left by official silence, and now that silence has real-world consequences beyond just frustrated speculation. As more information comes out, Whether that's the state's official findings or further developments in the investigation, it's worth remembering that behind every theory being traded online is a family still waiting for real answers. We'll keep following this one and update you as soon as anything solid comes out.